Many Canadians can expect to pay more to heat their homes this winter. Increased global demand, tight supplies, and the phasing out of coal have led to increased use for natural gas. Gas distributors like FortisBC, Enbridge Gas, and Manitoba Hydro have already advised their customers of rate hikes. Residential customers in parts of the country will see their monthly bills go up by about 9%. And analysts say prices will remain elevated at least into the spring. Canadians are not alone, though. Natural gas prices have also hit record levels around Europe. To talk us through the situation and what it means for Canada is Dr. Heather Exner-Pirot. She is a strategist and researcher with pro-development Indigenous groups in Western Canada. Doctor, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thanks for having me.
So what is behind this spike in natural gas prices worldwide?
I mean, it's complicated and there's a lot of issues, but there's some fundamental problems. One is that gas prices have been low for years, so there hasn't been a lot of investment in more production. So we're still using gas, but we don't have more gas to use. And I think carbon policies and COVID exacerbated that trend. So it just has not been an attractive sector for investors. What's happening in Europe this week is kind of a perfect storm of those things. Some nuclear had been coming offline, so there's demand for other kinds of energy. Asia is needing, more supply. There's a COVID recovery, so people are, there's a post-pandemic kind of a surge in demand, and they also, there's a fire at an interconnector. Sorry, there's a lot of small things. Wind was down this week, so a lot of things made it a very critical problem in the UK this week and in Europe. But the bigger problem is long-term, that before we hit winter, there isn't enough natural gas right now to meet demand. And countries and energy suppliers are seeing that. And that's why there's this, market demand and it's price crunch, because people are trying to secure their supplies ahead of winter. And there just isn't enough gas in the market to do that.
A lot of roadblocks in this market, ma'am. I want to jump to an article in iPolitics that you wrote. You said energy security is essential in the developed world. So can you expand on that and what that would look like for Canada?
Well, I think we become very complacent with our energy policies. We've been focusing on climate policy, and obviously, climate crisis is real and we need to do things, but we're eliminating sources of fossil fuels before we're replacing them with anything else. And so inevitably, and this is predictable, we're seeing that now that we don't have enough energy to meet all of our energy demands, and we're starting to feel the crunch. Canada is a lot luckier than many because we do have so much energy in our country, not only fossil fuels, but hydro and nuclear and many other things. But we're going to start to see it in other countries first. And places like Asia, where they're largely net importers of energy, are going to be scrambling to find the sources in the world market that right now are not coming. And we're still not seeing the investment post-COVID in the oil and gas sector that we were seeing beforehand, partly because of climate policies and partly because of other things.
And considering Canada's richness in resources, you say in your article that we're actually heading towards a 1970s-style energy crisis. So that's a big statement, ma'am. What do you mean by that?
Well, in the 1970s, what we saw was, and this was almost, it wasn't a demand problem, it was a political demand problem, is that OPEC decided to put an embargo on oil imports and exports to the United States and others because of the Israeli war. So that was, there was supplies at that time and they just wouldn't export them. This is a different case where we aren't really producing enough gas and even enough oil. If you look at what we're producing, even where there's excess capacity, it's not going to meet demand. And unfortunately, I think we all wanted demand to go down, but like I said, we haven't replaced the fossil fuel energy infrastructure with anything else, and so demand is still going to go up probably for at least another decade, and we just don't have the supply in the pipeline basically to match that. So what happened in the energy crisis? Global GDP fell by 4%. That's a COVID level economic depression that we're seeing, and now the problem is we're kind of self-imposing on ourselves by not putting investment into energy where we need it.
All right, ma'am, just about a minute left here, but we're also seeing roadblocks to development affecting the construction of these projects, of pipeline projects in Canada. So could those same issues affect other kinds of resource development in the country?
Yeah, so I know for a lot of people, they want to see less fossil fuel investment. Unfortunately, we still need fossil fuels, so that may not be wise in the long term. But if we want to replace, and we do, if we want to replace fossil fuel infrastructure, then we need more hydro, we need more transmission lines, we need more nuclear, we need all these extra sources of energy. Right now, our regulatory policies, our investment policies are not going to allow for that fast transition from our fossil fuel infrastructure the way things are today. If we do want to move quickly on the climate crisis, then we have to start developing at a massive pace on our mining and our hydro and our nuclear and everything else.